Since the cat's out of the bag and everybody can already tell that I'm here today instead of Cord, I might as well go on cam a little bit early. Cord unfortunately had something personal that he had to attend to, so you're stuck with me for the next hour and a few minutes. And we're going to take some time today to discuss the most recent letter to the players, just to make sure that people understand exactly what's happening, where we're going, why we're doing it, and answering a lot of questions. It'll be something along the lines of like a fireside chat with Orion today. Don't want to be too heavy on anything, but I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can, because I know that there are probably a lot of questions out there, especially given where we are in the development cycle based off of Corsairs of Umbar. And I apologize for my squeaky chair. If anything goes off inside of my room, it was not exactly expected that I would be doing this alone today. But it is the way that it turned out. So we'll just play things by ear and do the best we possibly can. We're about 5 minutes early, so we can start with some early discussions that I'll grab from anybody who has open questions at the front before we get into the main body of what we were going to be discussing anyways. Let's see if there's anything here that people want to actually talk about. Let's see. All right, so Mimo subs. I have not worked on... Okay, so I have worked on a host of other games, I guess. I worked on Dungeons & Dragons, and I worked on Ashran's Call, and I worked on a couple of internal projects, too, that didn't ever really get released as part of Turbine. But, you know, that's the way things are. Zipware Beta, I'm going to say it again. When it's ready to be out there for everybody to consume, it will be put out there for everybody to consume. I'm going to answer the question on legendary servers once we're in the normal time frame, because there are a couple of folks who have asked that along the way, and there's been some questions on it from either Discord servers or on the main forum as well. So I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to discuss that with everyone who actually comes in. Hey, wow. Will the new expansion link Gondor to Umbar? Oh, these are good. Let's have a meaty discussion today. I think that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Happy New Year to everyone. This is the first time that I've been on since the new year started. We are diligently working on a ton of stuff right now. As you know, we put out our letter to the players earlier this week with the roadmap for 2024. And there will be some more information coming out on this as time allows, and as we get closer and closer to the releases of the different portions of the content or the items that are actually contained inside of each of those quarterly updates. So we've got about 3 more minutes now. I'll keep riffing, and then we'll get going on and everything here. There are a lot of good questions coming in, though. I'm pretty excited about that. Ooh, Grounded Eagle, you're asking about Palantir. Well, as some of you may know, Palantir is our invite test server. Palantir does offer valuable information. It probably is time to consider potentially removing some folks and getting some new folks in. We kind of do that every once in a while just to try to keep things fresh and make sure that the testing that's going on in there is getting a good cross section of the player base that we have. Whether or not that happens in the near future, it's not something that I personally run. I do have a say in what goes on in there, but it's not something that I have any real control over. It's another employee's objective, really, and baby to run. So I'm not going to really comment too much on that. All right, we're a minute away. One whole minute. Well, under a minute at this point. So for those of you who are expecting to see Cord of the Rings today, I apologize. It's me. It's Orion. I'm here to actually take over for Cord while he deals with something that he had to deal with on a personal level, and that's totally fine. I apologize for sniffing. I apologize for coughing or anything else that I might do. It's winter here in New England, and it's a very cold day, and my office is a little bit chilly. So if you see me put my hood back on every once in a while, I also apologize for that. Welcome to this week's edition of Lotro Stream. We put out at the beginning of this week our roadmap for 2024. It's, again, a roadmap very close to what we had done last year at the same time, and outlines exactly what it is we're trying to accomplish. So if you take a look at what we have, we are looking to do, something to close out the remainder of the items that we had from Corsairs of Umbar. Corsairs of Umbar, of course, released back in November, has been running pretty strong since then, and we are now looking at getting out those instances that were all part of the initial draft of this. We are working on it very hard at this point and getting ready to put this up on Bull Roar as soon as it is ready to go. It'll come out in not a weird cadence. It'll come out in a cadence of probably the 2-3 player instances first, then the 6-player instance, with the raid to follow thereafter. One of the things that we're actually looking at doing with this new cluster is doing something that's a little bit more diverse than we've done in the past. I don't want to say in the past. In the past, we used to have more diverse instance clusters that were actually happening together. So this one kind of captures different areas and sections of the Umbar expansion altogether. It's not just located inside of Umbar Baharbel. It's also located on the Shield Isles. It's also located in the Temple of Marta Corbo. It's located in the very heart of Umbar Baharbel, and it's also located outside of Umbar Baharbel. So it's an opportunity for us to show different areas of the new expansion while also expanding the story overall. We're pretty proud of the way that things are starting to go at this point, and we're getting ready to really show these off and get them in front of you. So we're looking forward to that, and I know that you're looking forward to that. And then, of course, we are continuing with the Songs of Waves and Wind. That will continue on and give you a nice segue into the raid that we're actually building out. And we are also working on expanding delvings into the Elderslade missions and the addition of new Epic Malices. Now, I'm going to go into Epic Malices very briefly because this is something that has come up on the actual forums right now, and we want to actually provide you with at least a level of overview or brief overview on exactly what that means. So, Epic Malices are a brand new way to approach something special or spectacular that happens inside of those spaces. They're not the typical puddles that are getting dropped in the world, or a new skill that's applied to the monsters inside of the space. Instead, it's something that is directly affecting the character itself, whether it is a multiplayer version of 1, 2, or 3, or if it's just a solo play. It is a moment where something happens inside of the space, and it will feel epic and, oh my god, to the player that's actually inside of there. Whether it's something happens where the ground opens up beneath you and more enemies start to pour through, or if it's something else that's just pretty cool that you're going to have to deal with. That's kind of where the Epic Malices are coming from. They're unique. They only happen every once in a while, and you can probably look at them as something that was kind of akin to what the Scions were inside of our instance spaces in ages gone by. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we're looking at for the winter release at this point, and everything that we're kind of working on there. When we move into the spring and we get into the spring festival, there will be new rewards. There'll be new rewards for the 17th anniversary. The 17th anniversary, the 17th year of this game. One more year it can vote here in the United States. It's crazy. It's an exciting time for us, and we're really looking forward to this new one. And of course, the Epic will continue. And on the spring quarter 2, we actually put in a content pack. There's been a lot of questions about what that means. It's just the terminology that I used. It really is a quest pack. It means that there will be a number of quests that are now available. And what we mean by, and what it's going to actually entail is some of the underground beneath Umbar. We're exploring the story itself and focusing on the Kindred of the Coin in the city and what they're trying to deal with and what they're going through, and the fact that there are remnants right now from Harad that are still inside of the city. There are remnants that are still from other areas of the world that they're dealing with. There are still remnants of the all-seeing eye. There are still remnants of other enemies in the airs of Castamere that are still within the city, and they're trying to figure out who is trying to undermine anything that's going on with the actual kindred of the coin. So we're going to be exploring that, and by doing that, we're actually going to be doing some time release content. At least this is our goal right now, is time release content where you will have an opportunity to follow one of the storylines of each of the kindred in the city for a period of time that will then open up the next piece of information or a next set of quests that are available from the next kindred of the coin in the city. So that there will be a period of time that will actually release over several weeks where new content will become available as part of this quest pack. As we move into the summer, we'll obviously be looking at the Midsummer Festival and adding an additional hobby. Now, I know there's been a lot of questions around what the additional hobby is going to be. We are not ready to really talk about what that's going to be, what the new hobby will be at this point. But what I will say is that there are 2 hobbies that are in consideration right now. One is kind of you go out and find areas of the world to collect things. And then the other is when you're traveling in the world, you will discover more about the world. So the 2 little hints, they're not necessarily anything that that should give you anything more than just a teaser at this point, because there are some not difficulties, but there are some things we're going to have to work through in order to determine exactly what those are going to be. Now, second, and I apologize, the second part of this obviously is the Further Adventures. Further Adventures is a tradition that we've kind of had during the summer months, where it's been either Bilbo or Elladan and Elrahir or other characters from the books. This year we are going to use another big character from the book that we think is going to make a lot of players very happy. I won't give away who that character is, but I will say he's a pretty big deal in some corners of the world. The Monster Play update is something we're not talking about right now. I will say I'm pretty excited about it. If all goes well, it's going to be a pretty impressive summer for Monster Play, and we're very excited about that. Class updates. We are looking to touch as many classes as we can this year. We expect and will be making adjustments based off of the instances and raids. Once the instances and raid are out, we expect that there will be some changes that have to be made to the classes in order to get the balance back to where it needs to be. That means basically that there will be small adjustments that will happen throughout the spring into the summer and even into the autumn as we get ready to go into the next expansion. But that doesn't mean that there will be a complete overhaul on all of the classes. It just means that all the classes will have some tweaks along the way. There will be at least 2 classes at this point that will see another larger overhaul akin to what we did with the Guardian and the Bjorning earlier. The Bjorning, the Warden, and the Guardian that we did last year in 2023. VIP updates is another thing that we are kind of just glossing over right now. There are some changes coming to the VIP system that we are excited about, that we're looking forward to, and that we will have more details on when we get a little closer. We're not taking anything away. We're actually going to be adding a little more and tweaking some of the ways that the existing VIP value actually works right now. And then the last thing, of course, is that 4th profession being now available. There's been a lot of speculation on the forums that this is a spot that we're kind of hedging and saying that it could come in this late. And to be frank, yes, I mean, we're hedging that if things don't go as well as we had hoped, which is unfortunately really what kind of happened last year with crafting. We wanted to make sure that we gave ourselves enough cushion. If it does become available earlier than that, then it'll move up in the actual release time frame, and it'll become available when it actually is possible for us to get it out there. So that's kind of where we're at all the way through the summer months. When we get into the autumn, we are looking to put out a new expansion pack. And that new expansion pack is not going to be a level bump. It's not going to increase the level overall. But we are not calling it a mini expansion pack. We're calling it a full expansion pack because it is going to have a very large number of quests associated with it. There's also going to be at least 4 new zones that you'll be able to go into. I should say at least 3 new zones you'll be able to go into. The 4th zone is the one that we're actually debating and working on right now. So there are 4 zones that are planned. And of course, we are looking this year to put the instances and the raid as part of the release. Yes, we know that we did not get that out this year with the Corsairs of Umbar. It was a situation that was kind of beyond our immediate control. Severlin did make mention of it during Bloodborne's, during his stream that he did with Bloodborne not that long ago. And it really was. There were some key departures, really, that kind of slowed us down, that we had to take a step back and kind of rework who was doing what in order to get everything out the door. So we are playing a little bit of catch up, but we're also getting to the point now where things are settling down and we are moving at a much better pace, which means that we have this lofty goal, which is really not a lofty goal. It's a goal that we think is achievable. We actually have a really solid plan in our minds to get ourselves to the release of the expansion in the fall or in the autumn. That enables us to also put out the instance cluster and a raid. The raid would probably come a couple of weeks to up to a month after the actual opening of the actual expansion, but that is to make sure that players have the opportunity to gear up and be ready to go into that in space to begin with. The Epic will continue during that period. We have, obviously, the Harvest Math and New Festivals that will be updated as part of the autumn. And when I say updated, it will be mostly gear. But what we also want to say is, moving forward, we are going to start looking at how we can better improve upon the existing events that we have. So this is something that we're looking at for beyond 2024 and what we're trying to get to for 2025 and beyond. Now, there is this other piece on here about the kinship refresh. This is something that is near and dear to me. It's one of the first things that when I got back to the game, I looked at and spent a lot of time putting a spec together. To me, one of the most important things in MMOs is the social aspect of the MMO itself. Too often, I think a lot of players will end up, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, this is just the way that we all play games. We end up in a very solo mindset. We would like to solo a lot. But there are also a great number of players who are involved in kinships and who actually do enjoy the social aspect of things, who need tools and who need, or who want to be able to assist those newer players and be able to travel with them and be able to help them and learn about the game. So one of the things that we're really going to try to push for is making the kinship an important part of that overall experience, giving kinships the ability to really support their newer members and older members and feel as though that they can make their marks on the world. With that said, there's a lot that needs to go into it. We will be sharing some of the ideas that we have with the players on the forums. We'll be polling, or at least pulling some information from the forums and from different sources to really see what it is that you desire as part of the kinship refresh. But know that we are working towards getting something back out there that turns the kinship back into what it should be. That social hub, that social community, that way for you to connect together with friends and the friends that you make along the way. Which is what every journey is, right? It's all about the friends you make along the way. So that's our overview. That's kind of the idea of where we're going. And why is 2024 set up this way? Well, 2024 is set up this way because we're trying to get back to a cadence of releases or a way that we actually release our content that is more predictable. It is more... it's more standardized. It's something that we can come to expect. It's something that you can come to expect. The goal is that when we are finished with our 2024 campaign, we can then move into 2025 with the understanding and notion that we will move to a release in January's or the early part of quarter one, and then early in quarter two, early in quarter three, and then early in quarter four. So that moving forward, there is a much cleaner and more, I don't want to say understandable, but more predictable. Predictable is the right word. Predictable pace of release. So those are our objectives. They're lofty. They're things that we're trying to get to. And the proof will be in the pudding. We need to actually make some. We need to deliver on a lot of these. We have to make sure that we do exactly what we're planning, and I think we've got everybody in the right place to make sure that that happens. So I'm sure that there are a ton of questions. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the actual chat and start going through them and getting to them as quickly as I possibly can. So, why don't you enable scaling old content? Skirmishes are hands off in terms of additional scaling work. It's a good question. So, when you have a team as small as ours, going back and retrofitting a lot of the old content and getting it scaled up to where you would want it to be, so that it would actually function in the manner that you would need it to in the modern world. There's a few things that go on in there, right? We would need to create the reward structure around that at the same time that we're changing the scaling and the difficulties to make sure that it actually is something that is challenging enough for the rewards that you're actually getting. It's a matter of manpower, time. I shouldn't say manpower. I should say it's a matter of resources and time and the inclination. And while we understand that there are some really strong candidates for update and things that we would really like to do in that vein, I'm looking at you, featured instances. It will take time, and we need to plan it out properly. And we have to actually set the resources aside to ensure that that work is getting done in a proper way so that the rewards are happening at the same time and everything kind of dovetails and happens in the correct order. So it's something that we really do want to do, and it's something that we want to revisit as we get there. It's just a matter of when and if we can. Do I have any tips for junior coders? I don't code. I manipulate code. I can read the code and I can do all of the wonderful stuff that goes along with it, but I don't actually write the code. Stay in school, I guess. Let's see. Will the tier system for instances be reworked in the future? Tier 1 to 3. Right now, we are sticking with the 5 tiers. On a personal level, I would like to get back to the tiers 1 to 3 and make it so that the tier 1 is the more of the story mode, the story that we're actually telling along the way, and tiers 2 and 3 are the more typical standard and then a harder version. I would also like to consider making it so that there would be a better way to actually do that all along. Meaning that there would be a better system that's placed on top of it that is something that can be engaged with and activated on a daily basis. Any news on when we can get the event schedule for 2024? So the event schedule for 2024 is being worked on, and there's a good chance that we're going to be updating that in the fairly near future. I think that Cord is currently working on it, and I know that we have started putting together the list of when everything is going to actually happen. So I think we can expect that that'll be happening fairly soon. Don't know exactly when. Is the elf avatar update only for standard elves or high elves not included? The idea is that it would be all elves. The question is one of timing and, again, resources, and whether or not all of that can come together at the same time. Let's see. Hey, we got some kudos to the Gondor Renewed. Fabulous area. Thank you. Not me. That would definitely be our world team, which is fantastic. One of the best in the business, easily. Softball question from Druid's Fire. What's my favorite child that's been released so far, and what we know about already that is coming up? So wow, what's my favorite thing that I've ever done in the game? Whew. I mean, as grotesque and ugly as it is, it's probably monster play. But at the same time, like I've said this many times, Monster Play is what I feel is my greatest success as a designer and probably my greatest failure as a designer, because we didn't really plan on it being as successful as it was. So when it became really successful at the launch of the game, it was like, oh, now we have to figure out a way to really support it. And when I ended up going on to different things, it was difficult to pass the torch over to others and to maintain exactly where it was at. There was a question about VIP work and kinship changes. I gave you a quick overview on that, so I won't revisit it right now. There's a question on the Forester event and why the rewards are so steep. So I'll say this again. We are planning on putting in more events over time. That means that we needed to balance out the reward structure in a manner that would be conducive to the other events that are coming online. Now, what I mean by that is it's not on the roadmap for this year. We haven't put anything out there at this point. It was a pet project of mine to put it out in the first place. There's been a lot of problems with it. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I can't hide from that fact, right? There's been some issues with the way that it was implemented. If it was inside of an instanced area, then a lot of those issues would never have been a problem. But what we have done now is successfully discovered most of, if not all, of the potential exploits that are there in that capacity, and hopefully we can make sure that doesn't happen in any of the ones we do in the future. But the overall goal for the crafting events is that there will be a crafting event for every profession, at least one. And then over time, we would introduce more of them in different locations across the world. If we put in a reward structure that made it easier for you to get everything up front, it would have made it more difficult for us to balance everything in the future. We would have had to put such restrictive caps in that you wouldn't just be able to hoard all of the currency and just buy the new ones from the new events when they were actually added. The overall goal of the crafting events is that they are akin to, here in the US we have this notion, we have these places way back in the day that were called skee ball joints, right? And you would have a prize wall, and that prize wall would have things that you would spend tickets on, and there'd be some really bad things that you could get, like Tootsie Rolls or gum or whatever else was one ticket at a time. And then there'd be, the PS5 or a PC up there that you'd be able to buy. Back when I was a kid, it was a Commodore 64. Well, I spent a lot of quarters trying to get a Commodore 64 back in the day. I never got there because, it was like 65,000 tickets that you'd have to get to. But the goal was to create that kind of a reward structure where the more you participate inside of these events, the more of this currency you're earning, and then the more you can trade in. And because we know that there are going to be so many of these eventually, the costs were set artificially high. I had explained that in the outset. I know it's not a very positive. It's not a very well-received notion of the way that I put it out there, but it's the way that it needed to be in order to make sure that we could balance the future. Any long-term plans for reassessing mithril or legendary items? So there will always be review of the LI system. There will always be new ideas that we're looking at. I'm not sure what the question would be around mithril, so Nenorus, if you want to kind of hone in on that, you can put that back in the chat, and when I get back down to it, we can see if there's more I can say. The update says they fixed the Umbar delvings, ejecting each of the milestone. However, the Cardinal delving missions did that to me. Did we fix that as well? If they're still happening that way, please file a bug on it, and we can get to looking at it. Are there any further hints about the further adventures? I gave you the hint about further adventures. Important male character in the stories. Confess that you're anxious about the VIP changes and the refreshing of the look of the elves. So one thing I can say about working in this industry for as long as I have and working with a large player base, not everybody gets happy with changes that are made. But we do make them for the right reasons. It's not because we're trying to make things worse. We're always trying to make things better. We're always trying to make things look better. Okay, let's keep moving. Mithril coin value needs to be looked at. Yep, that's something we're looking at in ways that we want to actually try to make some changes. No one as far as I know will vote for Vermin Supreme. That's a very U.S. thing. Okay. Well, that's a good opinion. We'll skip over that one. Time release like the Bingo Boffin quests. Yes. Very much like the Bingo Boffin quest, but definitely more serious business where we're really delving into the story of the Kindred of the Coin. Do we have a dedicated department for all things RP, or do we share the focus through all the departments? If by role-playing you mean do we have like a group of people who try to come up with ideas for how players can RP? No. We do share ideas amongst the development team in order to come up with the direction of where we're going. But Maid of Lions is really the main person who does all of the main story stuff. But we definitely go through, it is a team effort to get to where we're going to go, and then it falls on Maid of Lions' shoulders to really write everything up. No, there will be no dwarf tossing. Gardening with Samwise. That's all I can say about that. No, it will not be hang gliding. I can also confirm that the new hobby will not be golfing. We're not at the point now where we're ready to put golf in. Golf is definitely something that has been discussed before, has been spec'd before. It's just a matter of it's not really at the point where it would fit yet. Oh, look at all this. Look at all these guesses. There's hobby is, I hope it's painting related. I hope it's butterfly collecting. I hope it's Moore's chicken collecting. If it was gardening, cartography. Oh, look at all these. These are great. Rock collecting and botany. How about walking, riding, swimming hobby? That's not really a hobby. That's just kind of a function of what you do in the game to begin with. No, it's nothing to... Oh, is it Tom Bombadil that'll be the further adventure? Or Sarah Oakart? You got me. It's Sarah Oakart. And it's going to be a 45-day long journey that you have to stay logged in for in order to complete the quest. No, it's not. No, and it's not Sarah Oakart. No Griffin races, no Build-A-Pony, no Sauron. Come on. We're not going to have you do stuff with Sauron for further adventures. Oh, goodness. Are we expecting the return of the Osgiliath portion of PvMP this year? No. Next year? No. Osgiliath, if it does return, will be in very short bursts. And I think... excuse me. I think if we do get to that point where we're ready to turn it back on, PvMP will be in a better spot overall. On MM and I are looking at the summer time frame as a great spot, not to like do a full reset on Monster Play, but do something a little bit unique with Monster Play and change up the way that it is played in shorter bursts. It's a strange way to say things, but it'll make more sense as we get closer and when we're ready to really talk about it. But I will say that what we've kind of got planned for then is kind of cool, kind of a big deal, We haven't done anything like that in a really long time. I think you'd have to go back to maybe all the way back to Eisen, since we've done something as large as we would like to do for MP. We'll see. Let's just keep going. Looking forward to some love for creeps. Yep, we're definitely going to be looking at them. Your wargs are not as gimped as you think. There are changes that definitely need to happen to them. And things will start to get a little bit better, especially in the spring time frame once we get back to tweaking the different player characters as well. The player classes need to have small adjustments. Some of them are a little bit overtuned out there. Yes, the Guardian is a little overtuned out there. But we need to make some slight adjustments in order to make sure that everything ends up in the balance point that it's at again. Ashbun says that the Bjorning is unfinished. We're aware that there are still some changes that are necessary for Bjorning, but it did receive a larger update than, say, Burglar or Loremaster did last year. Let's see. How many classes are planned for this year, too? Well, we're not playing any new classes, really. How many classes? So we haven't really set a number on how many classes will be overhauled this year or will be updated this year. That will really come down to timing and resources as we get closer to those dates. There are obviously going to be other demands on our time and other demands on the resources that we have. So we have to balance that out with everything in order to make sure that we're getting things done that we're really looking to get done. There will be at least 1 to 2 that are definitely reviewed and looked at this year. What happened to discussions about letting us gather any tier material? Okay, so the crafting overhaul that was planned, we ran into an awful lot of issues with the way that the original code was written for the crafting system. It is not fair to say that the idea is dead, but it is also not fair to say to any of you that the idea is something we can move forward on right now. Unscrambling the spaghetti code that exists for the way crafting was tied in from levels 1 to ad nauseum was something that just was way too difficult for us to accomplish in the time frame that we had. And unfortunately, other things that were happening in the background made it even more difficult and pulled focus away from those of us who would have actually had an opportunity to get in there and try to make some of those changes. So it's not necessarily that it's gone completely, it's just that it has to take a little more time in order to get into the space, and it is going to get backburner for a while, but it is something that we want to get back to. We do want to change the way, specifically like the 105 to 120 level area, that a lot of the crafting experiences are using right now, because we know that those are periods where it becomes very difficult and monotonous and not exactly the best experience. So we do want to revisit those when we have an opportunity. Will the raid in the fall have a new set, since it is a full X pack? That's the goal, is that it would be a brand new raid, brand new itemization, brand new everything. What's the point of releasing so many landscape areas for level cap when you can't even level? So weird. Community would rather take more instances, to be honest. Okay. So one of the things that we are looking at and assessing across the entire game is, where are those breakpoints? Where are those difficulties that we see and that you have communicated to us are difficult areas to get through? And specifically, what is it that slows progress for players who want to level? And that is not the entire encompassing outline of those people who actually play our game. We know that there are a number of players who are really into leveling and really into endgame and really into getting up to the instant spots and final places. But we are building a world, and that world will continue to expand. That we're not going to stop expanding the world. There will very likely be, at other points in development, new areas that we're developing for lower level areas, so that you can get to the higher levels that you would like to get to without having to go through, say, Moria, or taking place in the mounted combat experience, or we've already done some of this for big battles and other areas of the game, right? Our objective is to continue to fill out the world as best we can and continue to provide different experiences for players to engage in. I alluded to it a little bit in the idea of the kinship refresh, but one of the things that we really are looking at is how you play the game with your friends. And we think that that is an important part of the game and an important thing that we should be focused on and something that we are hoping to address in the near future. Let's see. How difficult would it be to clear out some of the NPCs in Yondershire Inns? I mean, we could file a bug on that, and if it's too many, we can take a look at it. Let's see. Well, I'm not going to read all of this, but why another expansion so soon? It's the cadence that we've actually had for several years. It's been more of a mini large, but we're not trying to call anything mini or large anymore. What we're just trying to do is it is a flat expansion. Will there continue to be expansions later on where we boost the level again? Entirely possible. This one is not planned to do that at this point. Why do we want to do this? It's just how we've done it. It's kind of something that I think some folks have come to expect. The difficulty that we faced this year, and even some of the difficulty that we faced last year. So in 2022, we released Before the Shadow. And Before the Shadow did have instances and a raid that were attached to it that came out later. Same thing happened in 2023. We recognize that that's something we don't want to continue doing. So we are working to ensure that we have a better understanding of the work in front of us, the work that needs to be done, and how we need to get to those delivery points. So we are trying to do a better set of planning in order to get ourselves into a position where we can be successful in that regard moving forward. Stat cap. All right, I'm going to keep going through. I'm sure I'm like an hour behind at this point. How about an XP bonus for being an akin? I'm just going to say right now, stay tuned on what we're really going to be looking for kinships. When we start to interact with you as the player base more on the kinship changes that we're looking to do, there will be information on like our initial ideas and the things that we're really looking to put out there. And a lot of it does come from just the feedback that we've seen from you over the years. On top of that, it's kind of looking at trying to get things to a place where it's not 2007 anymore, right? Where it's actually, where it's actually 2015, 2020, right? We're trying to modernize the way that the kinship system works. And some of that will be potentially innovative. Some of it will seem rather retro in some regards because there are just some features that we are missing that other games do have that we would really like to adopt. But there are also some aspects that we are looking at for the kinship refresh that would be a brand new take on things. So when you say, how about an XP bonus, I don't think you're thinking large enough in the way that we're approaching this. Let's see. New expansion, blah, blah. With the skirmish event we have now, how come there isn't an option to open skirmishes with mythical coins? That was just a decision, I believe, that was made a long time ago, and one that we will probably need to review at some time in the future. There are a lot of discussions that we are having about just about what the systems that we would really like to change and some of the things that we'd really like to update. And how we can incorporate that into future design, and future development. So these are things that we are constantly working on and things that we're constantly trying to come up with better ways for implementation. So we are constantly reassessing and working through and coming up with new ideas. So it's entirely possible that skirmishes would see something like that in the future. But we think that there are some other issues, right, with skirmishes that would need to be addressed. There's really not much beyond a certain level, right, where you can't really do much with your skirmish soldier or skirmish marks or anything at that point. So There are other aspects of skirmishes that we also want to look at as we start to move towards anything along those lines. But as I said, like, we're a small team, so we have to be very cautious about taking on too much at any given time and making sure that we're addressing the needs that actually affects the majority of the player base. And there's a very vast difference between our player base. We do have a lot of players who will try to get up to those top levels, but we also have a lot of players who enjoy just living in Middle Earth and spending their time in areas that they never want to leave, right? Some folks don't really want to leave the Shire. Maybe some folks don't want to leave Bree. So there are tensions that exist between the different aspects of our player base, and it's all about meeting the needs of many of those players as we possibly can. Ah, I missed this. Oh, good. All right. Any plans to bring unique set bonuses in the future? Bring back unique set bonuses in the future. We have been talking about that as one of the horizontal ways that we can do some advancement in the game. That does not mean that we're bringing back old set bonuses. It just means that we're looking at ways that we can make the existing set bonus system into something that is more desirable, and finding ways to kind of create better connection between like 2 sets, 4 sets, and 6 sets, so that it's not, so that there are better optimizations that you can do rather than, this is clearly the optimal way to do things. It's not an easy problem to solve, but it is something that we are looking at right now. Let's see. How much of a nightmare is spaghetti code to try and work with? Well, fortunately, I'm not an engineer, so by the time that it rolls downhill to me, I just get the nutshell of what it is, and it can be very difficult. Sometimes it can take days, or sometimes it can take hours, right, to work through something that has existed before. Sometimes it might take days, and other times it could take months. It really depends on how deeply something was embedded into like the general functionality of the game. Like our combat system is really complex, and if something is written into the combat system, it becomes very hard to take out or to modify. There are some points in the past where we have done some of those modifications, and some of that still exists. It's just, would that be something we could adjust or change? It's old code. I mean, that's just kind of the way that it is. And sometimes when you think, well, this should be easy, you think it's easy, but it's just not. It's just not, because of the way that it was initially instituted and the difficulty it would be to rewrite the whole system. Which is unfortunately what really happened with the crafting aspect of things, is that in order to do what we really wanted to do, we would have had to rewrite the entire crafting system to get it to the point where I really wanted to get it to, and I really wanted to get it to that point. We tried. Are we going to keep seeing crafting updates throughout the year? Yes. Oh, no. We are... So the question about whether or not this is going to go into lower tiers, again, that comes back down to time and resources and priorities. So there will be continued updates to the current tier. We're not letting the Umbar tier rest. We're going to be continuing to build upon it and adding more to it. We are also looking at how we can adjust things back through the past, because, as I said before, we know that there are some significant points where there are issues with the crafting system, and we do want to get to a point where we can overhaul those and make them easier to get through, and for easier overall for players to experience. We want to make it more fun. We want to make it more accessible. We want to make it something that's just a better experience. And we don't think we have the best experience there right now, so we do want to make those changes. Whether or not it will happen in this year, I will say this: not everything that was listed on the roadmap is stuff that we will end up doing. Sorry, that's the wrong way to say it. Not everything that was listed on the roadmap is all that we are doing. There are other things that we are doing in the background. The roadmap just gives you the major guideposts that we are looking to hit along the way. There was a question about level squish. So we don't have any plans on doing a level squish right now. It's just not something we are looking at. It's not something that we think we can accomplish in a time frame that would make sense, and with the resources that we have. So we are looking at it. We are not looking at a level squish. We are looking at another way to enhance the overall experience for players in general. There was another question about if everyone in the Fellowship or Raid has done the instance previously, there should be a fast forward button available to the leader. So that's an interesting notion. Not sure how we would implement that aside from the way that we've done it for raids in the past, where you've actually defeated one of the bosses, and then you can skip over that boss. It's interesting, but I don't necessarily know that it would be the direction we'd want to head, considering we want to kind of go back to some of the roots that we had with the instances. And I want to be frank, one of the things that we are discussing, or that we have raised internally, and has continued to be a point of discussion and concern, specifically amongst the systems team, is the notion of locks. And that's something that we continue to look at, and we're continuing to assess, and we haven't really come to a final solution on exactly what will change with those. We do think that we need to make adjustments to the way that locks work. It's just going to be a matter of coming up with the proper solution on them before we really move ahead on any changes for the way that locks are currently doing. With the pricing of new expansion, I don't know. That's not for me to know. That's not my position. You'll have to ask others about that when we get closer. Would we consider doing another Hit Bolt Town? It was so much fun. Any news on the new game launcher this year? So I know where we're at, and I can't promise anything because that's not my department. But from what I hear, you should be optimistic about a new game launcher. But don't hold me to it, because I'm only hearing things in the meetings in which I'm involved. Let's see. Sweet point between challenge and nerf to death. I heard Moria used to be darker. Okay. No, you can't have a Rick and Morty class. All right. Could we please have a feature like outfit slots, but for quick switching gear? That's an interesting thought. It's something that's come up before, specifically because we would really like to have a way to give you a PvP set, a PvMP set, and a normal set of gear. So it's not a bad idea. It's something we've discussed. It's just something that, again, time, resources, and where it fits on the overall production schedule. Is there a chance to put resource instances like Gundabad? We certainly have discussed that, yes. Short circuiting, blah, blah, blah. I expect to lower the huge amount of experience needed to move up. Oh, in crafting. We actually have some ideas there that we're looking at for crafting. There are some ideas that we floated when we were starting to work on the craft refresh. A lot of it had to get put on the back burner just because of things that happened internally that we're not done exploring. There are things that we would really like to put in, specifically as part of the Umbar Guild, that would hopefully make things easier for alternate characters who are also crafters. How is it going with the lock characters in closed service? That's a question I honestly cannot answer. I don't know anything about that. You'd have to save that one for Sev. Would it be that hard to reward players doing older scale content for their time spent? Would it be that hard? So there's always this. It's a great question, right? It's like, it must be easy to do this. It's never easy to do this. There's always a level of difficulty and a level of effort that you don't necessarily see, right? When we sit down to do anything, we come up with the core idea. We come up with the nugget of the idea first. We come up with, this should be easy, and this is how I know to do it. And then when you start getting into the weeds and you start seeing the way that things were implemented before, you start seeing how some of the material was done. Boy, howdy, it gets out of control real fast. So when we say it should be easy to do things like this, specifically with rewards from older instances or from older places, it's not as simple as you would think, because the balance that has to happen at every single level breakpoint across the game, and then you have to set things up in a way that makes sense. Where beta will be out when it's ready. Why do we have no additional skill or trade point mechanic for Umbar? Excuse me. The reason is because you've got plenty of those points already. You don't need any more. Until we do something to the way that traits are acquired, there are more than enough trait points available to a character to be more than viable and to create a healthy meta. Dunedain race or class when? Not planned anytime in the near future. When new creep class? I don't know. Was there anything said about 64-bit servers? No, we didn't say anything about 64-bit servers. Again, not my department, but I believe that there is an optimistic chance that this is something upcoming. I am not the one who should really deliver that news, but I can say that in the meetings that I've been in, 64-bit servers have been discussed, and they're not that far away. Hopefully. As we get closer to when they would actually happen, we'll let you know. Dulcimer, bugles, is that what you mean? Oh, that must have been a question about new instruments that I missed somewhere. Oh, there we are. There we are. New potential instruments. Don't laugh, but we really tried to get a hurdy-gurdy in for Corsairs. There just, unfortunately, we didn't have the time necessary to get all of the animations and sounds in that we would have. It's still on our list. It's still there. So there are considerations for new instruments that are always being looked at. Skirmishes need shoulder scaling. Yep. Glass china. Okay, I'm looking. I'm trying to catch up. We only got a few minutes left. All right. Do you see the team growing in 2024? I don't. We're definitely in a period where we are adding. We've got some new blood, and I will say that I'm very excited about the team that we've got right now. We're really firing on all cylinders, and things are going very well, and we're very excited about where we're going, what we're working on, and the direction that we're headed. Because it's just this is one of the I'm very excited about this year, and a lot of the team is really excited about what we've got planned for this year. Again, we've got to deliver on it, but yes, we're very excited, and the team is definitely changing for 2024 in a good way. All right. When instances are planned for the release here in Q1. We are hoping to get those out in the first Bull Roars coming soon. We've done a couple reviews on them. We are feeling good about where they're headed. Same thing with the rig. Would love to see more openable doors in the Shire. I just want to go on record with most other designers of any game that have doors. Doors are really bad. We hate them. No, the fact is that doors are a coding nightmare. They're a game nightmare. It would be great to be able to go into other people's houses and see how people live, huh? Yeah, I I understand where you're coming from on that. Any plans to add new ways to grow your characters with level ups, etc.? Umbar gave us no new trait points. It doesn't feel like we've grown in power. Uh, I understand where you're coming from. Uh, if anything, we would have to look at something uh, probably a little different in the way that we would level or provide that power. It is not something that is on our plate in 2024. You were going to talk about legendary server plans. Oh, good. I've got like 5 minutes. I did in a Discord mention that. So, we are planning the legendary server. It is something that we are working on. I know that Sev had mentioned it in his stream with Bloodborne, and we are continuing to work on it. We don't have a definitive time frame yet. We just know that it will be a new special rules server, and that's about all we can say right now, is that it will have special rules and some special sauce. Let's see. Is there a reason Bree is the only inn with beds? Probably because the Prancing Pony needed to have the beds in order to meet the requirements to match the book, right? Let's see. Throwing back out to that again, Q1 2025 be tweaked. So crafting event and Okay, so the crafting events are supposed to be, when there are enough of these crafting events that are running, they'll be available all the time. Meaning that an event around a crafting profession will be available. It's not supposed to be just this event. As we add more, they'll be available all the time. They will overlap. That's not going to change. Let's see. Can you create ocean waves in Umbar with the ability to allow us to body surf? No. No, we cannot. Sorry. Comment from you in the forums mentioned likely number of passes after raid release. Any chance before the raid? No. There won't be much in the way of any changes before the release. Basically because we don't have enough time yet. Enough time to get that done. I already mentioned about resource instances for Umbar crafting. That is something we would really like to do. Modifiable tools. That's something that is on the plate for the future. I can't answer why the bridge inn is not open. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Keep going, keep going. Any plan to work on improving old textures? That's work that is going to continue to be ongoing as we can. Already mentioned things on 64-bit servers. Deleting allies when. That's not going to happen. I already answered the when beta. When come up with this, blah, blah, blah. Added barter option. We see the Remichan frames emotes. We've talked about ways that we can do... we've talked about ways that we can do some of the older rewards in the game, and we are exploring that now. Any thoughts on unique legendary drops from the raid? It's a tough one to really discuss, unfortunately. The answer is I would love to be able to do more. It's just hard with the way that our systems and our game is actually built out at this point. So it's really tough to kind of look at it that way at this point, sadly. When you're in charge, well, I don't understand what that one is. Okay. What about the idea of fast PvP battles? Is it on pause at the moment? If by fast PvP battles you mean instance PvP, that is something that we have a prototype done for that. We need to improve the health of the PvMP. We need to improve the overall health of PvMP before we could even really start to go down that path. I did build a prototype for it, though. Let's see. are we planning on addressing the DPS for Red Brawler? There will be an adjustment done to almost all classes in the near future. No, we have not recruited Zip as a dev. Zip is just a contributing member, like most of you are in the community. I'm very confused about what that is. I must have missed a slanderous comment above or whatever, but whatever, it's fine. Will I win the Powerball this year? No, you likely will not unless you get super lucky. Forrester event question. I've been so far every time I drink. My player freezes, so in that case, what do I do? I don't know what's happening there. I don't know if there's something going on with your with your game client or with your PC or whatever. I don't know what would be happening there. Excuse me. What about a classic server? We are not likely to do a full-on classic server ever. Is there a plan? Are there plans to change old instances to get people back to doing them more while leveling? That's a really good question. It's something that we have looked at. We're exploring, and something that we think is an important part of the game is being able to utilize those older pieces of content. Again, I'm looking at you, featured instances. Yes, fall means football. That is on my coffee cup. Excuse me. All right. Estimate on when you can give plans for legendary server. I don't really know exactly when it's going to happen, but we are definitely looking into it now. Looking over the rest of this, and a lot of this is stuff I cannot. Yeah, so Druids, I have a harder time hydrating than most. There are health issues why, but that's for another time. I did try to mute the mic. I'm terribly sorry. Let's see. Wow, I'm caught up. Okay. So we are at time. The professor is up next. I did just want to close out and say thank you for all attending. I apologize for coughing there at the end. I made it for a really long time. I did acknowledge allies, and I don't know how you didn't hear me say that allies are here. Like they are going to remain. There's nothing that we're changing about them other than we'll continue to review them and look at them and see if there are better ways to handle it. One thing I can say about virtues is it's something we are looking at right now. So yeah, I wanted to thank everybody for joining and for continuing to play the game, and stay tuned. We've got more coming soon. Have a great day.